Lonesome Lands podcast, Lonesome Report, April 16th. If you haven't filed your extension yet, you're late for your taxes. This one is going to be a doozy. And I don't say that every time, but I feel
Amen.
like we got some stuff in here that incredibly important stuff. If you're a member of an ag organization, specifically, I guess, Farm Bureau, I would say. We rip on NCBA a lot, but or we talk about NCBA a lot, I should say that. And and today we'll talk a little bit about Farm Bureau and a number of other organizations.
Yeah.
And we're going to get in the mod deal. This episode is brought to you Oklahoma Independent Stock Growers Association. Great organization. If you want to, today we're going to talk about some organizations. One thing you can be sure of is this one is doing good things to support small independent ranchers. Not just in Oklahoma, they support, when you get into these state outfits, they support, end of EID mandate, mandatory country of origin, all those things we kind of push for. So go to I think it's OISA.com. I'm pretty sure. Oklahoma Independent Stock Growers. Type that in, become a member, support what they're doing. All right, let's get into it.
Come on now.
Shad took
Yes,
out his
sir.
pocketbook. That's the wonderful thing about us when we do talk about that sounded funny. This is a wonderful thing about us. Um, but Shad, when we talk about these organizations, they got all piles of money. Shad took out his pocketbook and he flew to South Dakota. We've been talking to about this mod deal for last, I don't know, at least two episodes. And he went up there, check it out. And so I guess just in case someone's just tuning in and hasn't heard, there's a family ranch in South Dakota that shares a fence line with the Forest Service. They have since 1906. It's been the same fence since 1950. These people, I think, is his great grandpa put the fence in.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
and because of that fence, they're now face 10 years in prison from the Forest Service and both people individually. And they've got two small kids at home, and it's just a horrible, horrible deal. That they've been kind of attacked like this. So Shad went up there, talk about it, I guess.
Yeah. So a group of state legislators out of South Dakota, led by Liz Marty May, who would be their representative in the Maude Family District, decided they would have a legislative tour and review of the of the property in question. This included their private property and the Forest Service allotment that is in question. So I think there was 15 state legislators there. Several wanted to come that could not come. There was a former congressman from Iowa, Steve King, who was there. There was a whole lot of neighbors and ranchers in the area. There was a couple of of fire districts, volunteer. Well, those aren't volunteer districts, um, but fire mitigation districts there. And then there was some representatives from associations and not a lot, but overall, I think at one time I counted 75, 80 people. And so we took a tour of the property in question, and it's beautiful country. I mean, oh, it's everything you think it is. And so stood on a bluff overlooking this. It's a 50-acre parcel down underneath this bluff in the turn of a river, and that is the Cheyenne River. And so as you're looking at it on the bluff overlooking it, you can kind of see exactly what the terrain is about and where everything is. And so we looked at that, and then we drove down in there on to their private property, which is connected to this allotment. And you could see the line of delineation between deeded and private in this field. And then, of course, the Forest Service has their warning signs all through there. But the fence in question is on between this property and the river is right there. I mean, it's right there. But this fence that has supposedly been the one in question is on the east, what I would call the east side of this 52 acres. Now, the only part of this that's in question is the 25 acres of Forest Service allotment there in this valley. Um, what I took from this legislative tour and this review, Jim, was that there's nothing there. There's nothing to be charged with. Um, the ground is in good shape. It looks good. It's fertile. They have taken very, very well care of it. Um, and I look and I'm like, what has been stolen here? And so the longer I go thinking about this, the more I'm like, this isn't about a fence line, because the fence wasn't even an issue. The fence was just off between the river and this piece of property, and it's not even an issue. And so I contend that there is something more here than the fence line or theft of government property. Because as I sat there and I talked to these local ranchers who have gone through the same type of bullying from the same people, I said, what is it that we're dealing with here in terms of theft of government property? I'm like, there's been no modification in all of these generations. There's no modification. If there is any kind of modification, it would be good, right? Progressive. It would be good for it. You have the mods who have, um, in connection with the Forest Service, have had their management, um, their
Yeah,
management
to be clear,
contract
they lease
approved.
forest they lease forest land, right? They lease the land on the other side of the fence. Is that right?
Yeah, the it's a bigger allotment than just 52 acres. I think it's like, I don't know, 1,600 acres or something. And they do have that too. But this 52 acres is what's in question, and there's been no modification to it. Their permit to on their management plan has been signed off on. They're still in good standing, and so I'm sitting here going, "What in the world is going on?" To these local guys that have kind of gotten, maybe one of them may be going through the same thing, and they're like, "We don't know. We don't know."
Right.
It is, and it's so small. It is such a small
Yeah, to
tract of
give
land.
perspective, I think and who this Liz Marty, what's her name? Liz Marty May?
Liz Marty May, she's their
I mean,
representative.
what a great idea too, because there's so many people that are kind of like, what the hell's going on?
Oh
And
yeah,
if you haven't seen it, like, that's how I was at first too, until I talked to people who had been there. There'd been some other people who'd been there earlier, and they were like, you wouldn't believe it if you saw it. I mean, there's absolutely no wrongdoing here. It's unquestionable. And the first text I get from Shad when he shows up is, "This is so stupid."
it is.
I mean, and I felt like that summed it up. Like, it's just beyond ridiculous what's
It
going on
is.
to get faced with, a prison time. And even if, the charges get dismissed and all that, we cannot forget that they've just went through a year of this deal, you know.
Absolutely. And the thing is I fear that it's just gonna, we've said it's a precedent setter, obviously, and I think it was you that used the example of the domino effect. If the mods fall, that will just be the beginning, the domino effect of the rest of these allotment owners falling too, because this is so stupid and so small and such a non-issue that there is something bigger at play here. And honestly, I've about decided that these ENGOs may hire somebody, or I don't know, incentivize people with alternative agendas to go in and wreak havoc on people's lives and just wear them down and wear them out. And
Yeah.
that seems to be what maybe this is, so they can maybe become willing sellers or whatever. I don't know. It's just I've been through a lot of things, and I looked at this and I'm just shaking my head and going, There is nothing, absolutely nothing here.
Right. And so to get into that, when we see this and there's nothing there, like that's what made me, if you saw my video about Patagonia, it makes you start searching for what's there. And one of the things that I found something that makes it even stupider. I was listening to, so this week, I was eating lunch and listened to the Meat Eater podcast. I've talked about that before on here. They had a Forest Service, I think he's called a forest supervisor. So, um, he was in Colorado. It's is it White River? Is it
White River National
White River?
Forest.
Yeah. So
Yep.
he was in charge of that, and they were just talking to him, and he ended up taking the retirement that was offered before all these firings, and he was, they were picking his brain about stuff, but he said something, and it jumped out to me, and so I actually wrote it down word for word. He said homeowners that butt up against this is talking about, and this is kind of a conversation, so it doesn't, but he said as more and more people move into the forested lands, a lot of it they have to get an easement from the Forest Service to put a driveway in or put a power line in, or they have a crappy survey and they ended up building part of their house, which happens all the time. That's his words, not mine. He put that in there, which happens all the time on the National Forest System lands. And then we say, hey, you got to move your house. Or there's this thing called the Small Tracts Act, where they can purchase the land if it was proven it was done accidentally, bad survey or something. So that's his word for word. And so I'm like, Small Tracts Act. How come? What is this? And I look it up, and I'll read to you. Might take me just a second here to find it.
Small Tracts Act of 1983.
Yeah. So, and then it was amended in to make it even easier in 2018. It was part of the Farm Bill. It was amended to make these kind of things easier. But what it really is, it says the National Forest System lands, which may be sold, exchanged, or interchanged under sections 521C or 521I of this title, are those the sale or exchange of which is not practicable under any other authority of the Secretary, which have a value as determined by the Secretary of not more than $500,000, which are, and then it kind of gives the breakdown. And if you have a section that's under, it gives a number of reasons this would happen, and one of the reasons, if it's under 40 acres and it has
Yeah,
lost national forest character, which I believe that's what the Forest Service is saying, right? That the mods have been farming this.
correct.
Yeah, which has lost national forest character, due to what a Forest Service officer says, a crappy survey. If what the survey, and the mods haven't seen the survey, that's the other
Yeah.
insane thing.
No, they
But
haven't.
but which is so mind blowing that. Do you know if they've tried to get their own, or have they been advised
They,
not to, or
yeah, they have not tried to get their own, but the Forest Service has certainly been out there twice doing
yeah.
that
But I mean, even like this bill was created to solve these
to
exact
remedy
problems.
these, yeah, to remedy this
Yeah.
exact problem.
And so to go straight to charging these people with stealing government property, it's just a whole nother thing of they are out to get these people.
Yep,
And why? That's that's what we're searching for, and that's why we've come up with the different things we've come up with. But that Small Tracts Act, I mean, and to go back to the Secretary of Agriculture, she's the only one that can approve it. That if
right.
she wanted to use a small, I mean, she could dismiss the
Yes.
charges right away, I'm assuming, because she is in charge of the Forest Service. And the people in charge, I would think the people in charge at the Forest Service could just be like, we dismiss the charges or drop the case. That can happen at any time, right? But
Correct.
if the secretary, I mean, if this was brought to the secretary and told what happened, I would assume she would just say, okay, you know,
Well,
we'll
I would
just
think so,
let
but
it go.
I know
Those
they,
lands have lost national forest character. So they could be, what does it say? Sold, exchanged, or interchanged.
yeah.
I mean, they could find a solution easily if they search for one.
I think the
And there is a
ridiculous,
law written specifically for them to do that.
No, there
And
is.
instead, they came out and arrested people. These people, I don't know if I talked about it on the last one, but she writes for Tri-State Livestock, and if you go back to the last thing she wrote, I think was Christmas 2024, and she talks about how hectic Christmas is and how they finally got a night off, and it's kind of a neat little, just kind of a window into ranching life, like they finally got a night in town. But if you read it thinking about how what's really going through her mind is it has to be like, what's next Christmas going to be like? Um, and I cannot imagine. Um,
Well, it was a great meeting, and they are under a lot of stress. And what I've took away from the mods themselves is they are just as grassroots type of producers as there is in the West. They work hard. Um, they go their separate ways during the day. When I got there, she was taking care of a pig that was trying to give birth, and he was out feeding cows. They're Kevin right now. They farm. They sell meat into their community, and so what I came away with is they're super humble, super humble people, and extremely nice, very family oriented, caring. I mean, it's just an atrocity of what's going on. So when they had this review and this tour, after it was over, everybody went over to a fire hall, a brand new fire hall that, by the way, Charles was instrumental in having built because he is the chief of the local volunteer fire department. And this fire hall was amazing. And everybody said this fire hall wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Charles Maude. And so we heard a few speakers there, and I don't know. I just got to thinking, why don't let's get these charges dropped, and then let's compensate the mods. So why don't we allow them either number one to buy the tract through the Small Tracts Act, or number two to gift it over to them for the pain and suffering that they have been through, and that's really what needs to happen. But not only that, but their whole allotment. That way, this stuff doesn't happen again. And I think all this amounts to, Jim, is they made an employee of the Forest Service mad when they asked that individual to notify them when he was on their private property, which is not, an unusual request by landowners.
right.
And I think that that's the instigation here, maybe.
And you heard from other landowners who had talked to this same forest agent, right?
Yes.
Forest
Yep.
Service guy.
Yeah.
And that's
This
kind
is
of par for the course on how he
par for the
acted.
course. Poor, and it's not just the one. It feels after I got done talking to everybody, it feels like it's two, three, four deep.
Yeah, well,
That
yeah, it would have to be
yeah.
I mean, for this to go on the way it is and for him not to get like, I mean, for anyone in that department to not be just fire him on the spot and drop
Oh
the
yeah.
charges. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense at this
No,
point.
I agree. And
I mean, he should go to jail. That's what I've said before. I mean, he honestly should. You should not be able to do this to people.
no,
For no,
they
I mean,
but
for
see
whatever
they're
reason he has, you
well,
shouldn't.
yeah,
There
but
is
I
no
mean,
reason that you should
there's
be able to
many
do
of
this.
them working in tandem. Listen, his higher ups know exactly what he's doing, and they should feel the repercussions as well. I mean, they are ruining a family, and whatever stress that the mods have been under, it's going to take years to get over all of this. The financial stress, the health stress, the emotional stress, these kids thinking, having the back of their mind, and good grief, they're good little kids, having the back of their mind that their parents could be going to prison,
Yeah, and
and
that'll last for, I mean, they'll never forget it.
they'll never forget
And
that.
what people say too is, once you're accused, I mean, I don't know. There's people, you see comments on the internet as this
Oh
guy
yeah.
starts gaining steam that don't understand this situation at all. And they're like, oh, they probably did this or they probably did that. But
Well, then you have the ideologues that are pure evil, and
right,
they
they hate
want them.
Trump and they
They
assume
they
every,
hate Trump, they hate
yeah,
conservatism, and they want them to go down no matter what. And it doesn't matter what kind of proof you bring forward; they're guilty of something because the Forest Service said so, right? And I don't know where it's going. We're still currently, as of today, waiting for President Trump and Secretary Rollins to make a move on this. I keep getting assured every single day that that is going to happen, that there will be a good outcome. But I'm to the point now where I just say I'll believe it when I see it. But I will tell you this, that the support for the mods is gaining momentum and speed from all over the
Well, that
country.
just goes to the more and more people who see how ridiculous this is. That's why the whole going out there looking at the fence for all these people was such a great idea.
Jim, I'll just tell you what, this is an embarrassment for the Forest Service. It's an embarrassment for the legislators that are not getting in there and getting their hands dirty. They got egg on their face, and I'm talking national legislators. The governor's office, I've called the governor's office. Well, it's a federal issue. I mean, this is an embarrassment for them. But I will tell you what, Liz, Marty May, Carla Lims, John Hanson, all those legislators that turned up out there, man, what a phenomenal job and what a phenomenal day they did had. They studied it, they understand it, and they're going to fight for them. And it's awesome that they are. So,
And it's really brought a lot of issues kind of to the forefront.
yeah.
I guess to go back to this interview, like while I was talking about it, you've talked about Forest Service and we've talked like this bureaucracies that exists, that don't have to answer to anyone.
Yep.
Just while we're talking about it, this guy, he was on there and he was mad about all the firings. Definitely not a Trump guy. Um, but at the end of the interview, they asked him and he talked about how the Forest Service is inefficient and things could be fixed. And they asked him what percentage of the Forest Service budget could we cut before you before before you could have a problem with it, or I can't remember exactly how he worded it. Guess what he said?
Well, how much?
Guess. I want you to guess.
I would say 60%,
He said 40.
40.
But still, oh, you ruined it. But I mean, you're talking about a Forest Service guy who
Yeah.
said they could cut 40% of their budget and
Yeah.
still do what they need to do. And the reason he said that is because of the DC office is so filled with people that are just bureaucrats and they don't do anything. They don't have a connection to the Forest Service. They sit there and probably thumb through. I don't know what they do. But I
Well,
mean,
and
it's
there's,
just a microcosm of the USDA too. Like that is a
yes,
part of U.S. Department of Agriculture.
yes,
And you have a
100,000
guy who works
employees.
in and loved the department. I mean, the reason he was doing this interview is because he wants it to continue and be successful, and he loves, public lands and national forests and all that stuff. But he sees where things are going, and if you just say we need more money, eventually we're gonna be like people are gonna be so fed up they're gonna want to get rid of it completely.
Well, and I think that's where they're headed. I had an individual out there tell me that there has been trouble festering between ranchers and the Forest Service for generations out there, especially in the last 30 years, um, in South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. And I said, why is that? He said, because you have this culture within the Forest Service that is not agricultural oriented. And he says, I know Forest Service employees that were born and raised on these ranches and, come up in the ranching lifestyle and was raised to know right from wrong and all of those things that we hold dear in that lifestyle. And he said they go to work for the Forest Service and their culture totally changes and they buy into that nefariousness in the culture and they become different people. And he said, I know people in the Forest Service now that way that I
Yeah.
can't even talk to them anymore.
And I'm
So there's
sure,
obviously a culture
yeah.
problem there.
All right. But to move on, which not really moving on, everything kind of connects as I've found doing this podcast, it's kind of like, oh, this is why that's happening. And all of this stuff just connects.
I've
It's like,
always said it was all interwoven. You cannot get away from these issues. They're all
yeah,
interwoven.
and the organizations and the corporations and they all kind of it's like the same names keep coming up. But
Yep.
as we're doing this, I'm kind of like these organizations that they say we're the voice of the rancher and the farmer and all of this kind of stuff. I'm thinking, how can this happen? And where is Farm Bureau on this? Like, kind of like, why is it that, like I said to Brett Kenzie, why is it that just you and me are talking about this? And now I mean, it's definitely not just you and me, Shad, but there's not enough people talking about this when something this ridiculous happens. And so I'm like, where's Farm Bureau? And so I type in, well, I guess to get back to it, I saw who's kind of taking over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And in that video, I talked about Patagonia. And we talked a little bit about this last week, but Patagonia, the owner, Yvon Chouinard, is an environmental extremist, activist, I guess. And he quotes himself, he is a proud socialist. I mean, that's what he says. He hates capitalism.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so he's created this billion-dollar industry or company in this capitalist society, and he hates there's a quote where he says he when he found out his business was worth $1 billion, he was so disappointed and he hung his head in shame because he hates being successful, apparently. Like
I'm
it's
sure he
so
did.
stupid and hypocritical. Like I just cannot stand the guy. Never met him, but I mean,
And you
what
bought his book.
I don't know. I don't have it anymore. So maybe, I don't know. I might have borrowed it. I don't remember. I read it, but it was good to learn. Like, and he is that kind of guy that would almost be
Yes.
glad that the mods are going to, I mean, he hates snowmobilers. That's the other thing I took out of this. And if you're gonna hate somebody, I get it. Like I used to ride dirt bikes, but I mean snowmobilers, it's like wintertime. They're not necessarily tearing stuff up. I guess maybe they have to cut trails or something, but I mean they're riding around on fluffy snow. Like you just hate the noise of them. I don't know. But anyway, so this guy, he gives ownership, 98% of his ownership to the environmental group that he created called Holdfast Collective. And Holdfast Collective, I'm guessing that this Bison Ranch LLC that owns that is buying a big chunk of this neighborhood, where this mod, they now neighbor with the mods. I'm guessing that this is Holdfast Collective, I mean, I called it Patagonia. They own 98% of Patagonia. It's kind of the same thing, only they're strictly an environmental nonprofit, which seems
Okay.
completely illegal. Like, how can you take all ownership and profits from your company
And
and
buy
then
land.
give it to a nonprofit, and then what are the tax implications there? Like, I mean, if the IRS want to send some people out to investigate something, I would think that would be it. But anyway, this Holdfast Collective, and so then I'm searching. So then we find out the Nature Conservancy has also bought up a much bigger portion of this county, 25,000 plus acres in one ranch, and so they actually have a much closer corridor if you're looking at wildlife corridors to Custer State Park or to the national park that's over there also. Um, and so like I'm looking for the connection there. Holdfast Collective's largest contribution at the time I read this was they gave $5 million to the Nature Conservancy to buy 8,000 acres of land in Alabama. I believe this Nature Conservancy land closed in the last month or two. So
In
I don't know.
Alabama or South Dakota?
In South Dakota. In
Okay.
Alabama, I think it was like a year ago.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, there's your connection. We have these two entities. One is all the profits from Patagonia, and they're giving millions of dollars to the Nature Conservancy. And now they're both in Custer County owning thousands of acres, very close to each other. So they're obviously connected, right? Um,
Tens of thousands of acres.
yes. And so, I mean, if you look at a map, Custer County is mostly federally owned, I believe, I would say. It's a big national park, which is Mount Rushmore and the Black Hills National Park, and then the Black Buffalo Gap National Grasslands is what the mods kind of are around. That's the Forest Service land that the mods are dealing with. But so to get back to the Nature Conservancy and Farm Bureau. I'm like, where is Farm Bureau on this? So, because the Nature Conservancy is buying up farmland and ranch land throughout the entire country. They said if you search Nature Conservancy in South Dakota, they brag about their over 1 million acres now in, I think it's South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota. Those combined, they own over 1 million acres. Um, and they brag about all this. And what we talked about also is the big problem we have is 567, according to Data Republican, the federal government, U.S. taxpayer dollars, gave Nature Conservancy over $500 million last year.
Correct.
And so what we have is the federal government giving money to this conservation organization, and the conservation organization is buying up ranch land and farmland, and small family, independent family farmers and ranchers aren't able to buy that land, work the, I mean, it has so many implications we couldn't even get into it right now. Property values, all kinds of stuff that they're doing to these neighborhoods. And so everybody says, well, agriculture has the biggest, most powerful lobby in the country, which is Farm Bureau. So I look up Farm Bureau, Nature Conservancy, and I have found that they're partners. Like Farm Bureau is not doing anything to stop this. They are 100% helping this. And when you talk about Farm Bureau, I always have to say, this isn't your county Farm Bureau. If you're a Farm Bureau member of Pottawatomie County or Archer County or any of these counties, that's where Farm Bureau gets their power. And so they go to DC and they say, we represent all these farmers. But when they're in DC, they're doing things that farmers and ranchers despise. And if this is making you mad because you're a Farm Bureau member, just listen to what they're doing in DC. Um, so
And I will say,
yes,
in the
please
defense of the
interject.
in the defense of the local farm bureaus, especially Wyoming's, they have been very, very supportive of the Maude family.
Yeah.
And, and in defense of local farm bureaus, my local farm bureau here has created a lot of great policy that
Yeah.
when they get to the state level, they're shot down immediately.
Yeah, I mean, and they're good I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna get at, and I don't. This
Yeah.
doesn't really connect to the mods, except for the Nature Conservancy is taking over tens of thousands of acres in their county, just like they are in a lot of counties throughout the country.
Well, let's connect it. Let's connect the dots for them. This
Shad,
is important.
right? And so the Ag Climate Alliance is made up of eight. Let me get back to the top here. Eight organizations that founded the Ag Climate and I'm having trouble talking today. Alliance. Now I can't find. Okay, steering member. What is this called? Steering committee members. So these are the founding members. American Farm Bureau, Environmental Defense Fund, which is another extremist environmental
Extreme,
group.
extreme.
The Food Industry Association, National Alliance for Forest Owners, NASDA. Do you know what that is? NASDA. I don't know. National Council of Farmers Cooperative,
National
National
Association of State
Department of
Departments of
Agriculture.
Agriculture.
Okay. National Farmers Union and the Nature Conservancy. So they worked with Farm Bureau and Nature Conservancy and these six other outfits worked to create the Ag Climate Alliance. And then
Those are the founding members.
right, there are additional committee members. Looks like there's, I don't know, 12 of
There's
them.
20, there's 25 total members of
Yeah.
this alliance.
But
The
ones
one
we've maybe
The
talked about
ones that
are,
you mentioned are the founding members. That's
yeah,
very important to understand that the Environmental Defense Fund and the Nature Conservancy are two of the six founding members of this alliance that is bringing agriculture groups together to control or to set policy on food production and conservation land use.
yeah, what it really is a group of lobbyists that are all working together. One of the so additional committee members that we've talked about, there's a few, but National Cattlemen's Beef Association, of course, is in on this deal. Farm Credit, Ducks Unlimited, National Corn Growers Association, National Milk Producers Federation, That's mainly kind of the ones that National Cotton Council. Um, but you can look it up, and we'll link to all this stuff in the description. But
Land
this,
grant universities, the Association of Land Grant Universities. Remember the 40 million or the $80 million that South Dakota State got through the Climate Smart Commodity Program? See, we're all very interwoven here.
yeah, and this goes back to, I mean, I don't know when this was created, but what we found is in 2023, which is the current Farm Bill expired, and it's just been extended. These groups were lobbying for the new Farm Bill. And so in their policy lobbying, I was just looking through it, like what the heck are they? And this is all climate, climate, climate. Everything's about greenhouse gas emissions
Yep.
and reducing them, farmers
Yep.
reducing them and tracking them. And they knew USDA was all in on this measure, monitor, report, verify. So they were, and when it comes to lobbying, they were all, everything that they ask for lobbying, they want robust funding. That's what I kept seeing over and over. We want to ensure robust funding for these environmental grants and all this crap. But the one that really popped out, if you scroll through this policy book on in the livestock section, they want to enable. This is the Ag Climate Alliance. This is their recommendations for the 2023 Farm Bill, which is now the 2025 Farm Bill. But
Correct.
they wanted to enable the use of technologies such as gene editing to improve animal genetics. Improving animal genetics to produce more meat or milk could allow for a reduction in the total number of animals in production, thus reducing the aggregate environmental impact. Improvement of animal genetics will also be a critical aspect to helping livestock producers around the world adapt to a changing climate. And so, if you didn't get that, they want to they want to use gene editing to the reduction in the total number of animals in production. This is Farm Bureau and NCBA putting their name on something that wants to reduce the total number of animals in production. That's a direct quote from what this is. Um, and I mean, to me, it's not terribly surprising, but I have a lot of people that get after me. Why are you so hard on NCBA? Why are you know? I mean, this is kind of what we know is going on behind the scenes, and but this is full frontal in the scenes. They are sending, this is what they're trying to get into the farm bill, a reduction in the total number of animals in production. I don't know how else to say it, but they want less. I mean, fewer numbers mean fewer ranchers.
Well, and on top of that, they readily use the use of biotechnology. Now,
Well,
I'm not,
one of the founding people are is the, let's go if I can find it again, biotechnology something. Um, okay, this was an additional committee member is Biotechnology Innovation Organization. You want to explain gene editing?
no, I don't even.
Me neither. So, but if you get into the gene editing, it goes
Well, for
back to, was it the Angus Association or Certified Angus Beef? I get them mixed. I
Angus
can't have,
Association just this week
they're pushing that again.
with that partnership, the University of Nebraska.
Oh, oh yeah. So that's there, that deals about gene editing.
Yeah, the way I understand it, here you have an admission to the use of these public-private partnerships to advance this reduction in production uh, through climate change, through GHG greenhouse gas emissions, right? And this 30-page document is full of this,
It's so full of,
using using the USDA, specifically the NRCS, as their third-party point in a public-private partnership with these people.
and
And as I remember, Trump said when we elected him, he said, we're going to get rid of all this climate change crap on this on these internet on on government websites. And so if that's the truth, and then you have this alliance who is presenting their policy proposals in this 30-page document to the federal government, it's a little bit opposite of what Trump told us.
Yeah, I mean, this was created in 2023.
Yeah, this, I mean,
So,
you're
but I
exactly
mean, it
right.
just go it totally shows. And in 2023, if you wanted, when Biden was in there, if you wanted money, if you wanted grant money, you slap, this is well known, you slap the word climate change on something, and the odds of you getting your grant money are greatly increased. So they come out with this whole thing, but to the way that they use your membership, just as an example, the very first line of this under opportunities in the 2023 Farm Bill, the very first line of this report. U.S. farmers and ranchers and forest owners are at the forefront of national efforts to address climate change. I mean, how many times do you think climate change was talked about in your local county farm bureau meeting? You know, I mean, we talk about pushing back against windmills, and some people are for windmills and not, and all this crap, but um I don't know any farmers or ranchers that are at the forefront of addressing climate change, because it's most it's BS. I mean, it's just BS. I mean, that's what Trump got elected on. And
Exactly.
and a big part of him getting elected was from the rural vote, because they are sick of this crap. Another part of this report, recommendations outlined in this report were developed jointly by FACA's, which is the Ag Climate Alliance acronym, steering committee, meaning jointly all the recommendations, including the one we just read about reducing production, was created by these associations. And so to go back, we have the national, or we have the Nature Conservancy buying up tens of thousands of ranch land, acres of ranch land and farmland in the U.S. They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the
Taxpayer
federal
funds.
government for this kind of crap.
That's right.
And we have NCBA, Farm Bureau, all of these ag associations creating what this thing is, this climate, this farm bill policy thing. It's ways to create money to funnel to organizations like the Nature Conservancy. In one of the
Correct.
articles that was written about Custer County and in this mods issue, they talked how this guy who runs Wild Idea Buffalo is a professional grant writer, is what someone called him. But I mean, you talk about professional grant writers, that's the Nature Conservancy that get hundreds of millions of dollars. But I mean, that's where we are. We have these small family farmers and ranchers who aren't professional grant writers. They don't know how to get this climate money, and they don't spend their day on the computer trying to figure out, all these grants and how they can milk the government out of money. When things come down the pike, a lot of people in agriculture take it, like this next 10 million billion $10 billion payout now, but that's widely known. This climate stuff, it's kind of like for specific organizations like the Nature Conservancy. And then they get hundreds of millions of dollars and they take land away from the next generation. That land in Custer County is not going to be ranched. I mean, you talk about a lifetime, but for lifetimes, that will be Nature Conservancy on land. Same with the Holdfast Collective or Patagonia land. That's not going to come up for sale because it's an organization. Their owner isn't going to die, and their kids aren't going to fight over who gets it, or try to sell it and get the money out of it.
Well, I think the issue here, Jim, that we need to remember is that these farmers and ranchers who are getting out of the business uh, through capitalism can sell their land to who they want to sell it to, right? And if that's the Nature Conservancy or Patagonia or whatever it may be, that's fine. Now, do I support that? No, because those organizations have membership that creates or people funnel through the 501c3, funnel money to them, and they get millions, if not billions of dollars per year through gifts and donations. And so that automatically takes the competition away from the farmer and rancher to buy his neighboring ranch or for somebody new to enter into the business. The key issue here is that these organizations are prioritizing through a document like this, these public-private partnerships, and they are utilizing taxpayer funds to buy this money, take that or buy this land, take it out of production, and then further increase the inability to create a system of competition, of fair competition, or an equal footing for farmers and ranchers to be able to buy, at least compete with the price on that. So they need to take all of this federal money out and away from these NGOs and these ENGOs, and that way they're not competing, you know, on the wrong level against local producers. I mean, I get that people want to sell their ranch for as much money as they can when they get out. I get that. I get that the kids want all the money that they can get. But I guess it comes to a time of personalization where we have to say, what is our legacy going to be and why does it matter? And if your legacy is to sell your ranch for or your family ranch for as much as you can and get all the money you can, fine. But do not involve that third party of the public tax-paying system um, to enable that. That's wrong on every level. These ENGOs should not be getting any taxpayer money at all.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to this. I mean, it's everything we've talked about for a year, I feel like has been brought in to light around this one issue, and it's sad that it's happening, but it's happened. And if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't know about Nature Conservancy owning a large chunk of Custer County or Patagonia, giving money to Nature Conservancy so that they can buy land and all of this stuff. But it goes back to Sustains Act, which we talked about over a year ago. I had a podcast with Brett Kenzie where G.T. Thompson, I mean, all these Republicans
Republicans,
put this bill through that allowed corporations to funnel money into the USDA, and then the US then allow the USDA to funnel that money back out. And it's this public private partnership where everything just turns into a money laundering scheme
that's all it is.
of taxpayer dollars. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's
That's
where it
all it
goes
is.
down to.
I mean, that's literally all it is a money laundering scheme that abuses taxpayer funds. And where's Doge at? You know, where's Doge at on all
Where's
this stuff?
everybody at? Where's the Farm
Yeah.
Bureau at? Like,
Well, I don't think, Jim, I don't think people understand how interwoven this all is. I think
oh, for sure they don't.
when you're a rancher in South Dakota, it's hard enough to get up during Kevin season when there's a 50-mile-an-hour wind and the wind chills are 40 below and go out there and do your job and get wore out. And then you got to start farming, get ready for the spring, turn the water on, get the cattle out. All of this stuff has to be done. So they depend on these trade organizations to represent them. But these trade organizations, just like the bureaucracies in our federal government, have been infiltrated by the enemy. They have literally been infiltrated by people who have, number one, their own agenda or a different agenda than production agriculture. And if I'm just going to say, if you think that biotechnology integrated into production agriculture in a way that a third party says is scientific, you're very, very gullible. I don't even know. I don't trust any of them anymore.
How
I do not
much
trust one of them.
we don't have a ton of time this week because I'm planting and I had to take time out just to do this, but I feel like it's so important to do, but I don't know if people are going to I don't know how much attention this will get, which is that's the kind of the disappointing thing to me. It's like we're reading from a Farm Bureau created document, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, all these organizations created this document. They want to create an animal through gene editing that creates more meat to to reduce the number of animals in production. I don't know how to explain it any different. They want to make less livestock, which makes less livestock producers. I mean, they are word
which
for
takes
word.
less land,
Yeah, they are word for word lobbying against you if you're a small
word
family
for
or
word.
farmer or rancher. And I don't know how we can put it any plainer. And I don't know if anybody will pick up on this or
It's so easy because I've always said, where there is beef, there's liberty. And what do we have to have for beef is land. What is the attack on? Land. That's what this is all about. This isn't about a fence line or greenhouse gas emissions, your carbon footprint, renewable energy. This is all about who controls the land. And in these public private partnerships with these people who have infiltrated, and they are not producers, they are not food producers in any way, shape, or form. They're ideologues. They want control of the land.
um do you think anybody will I mean, do you think this will get the attention it deserves?
I can't
That's what I
answer
almost
that.
feel. I'm already frustrated. Like I mean, as we point this out and play it out there plain as day, we're gonna have Farm Bureau people be like, "Oh, don't be ripping on the Farm Bureau. They're a great organization," or
I,
NCBA people, or
listen,
whatever.
hey, if they want to be a part of that, be a part of it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
guess.
care.
I mean,
I don't care. But just remember, at the end of this, when I always say one tyrant eats the other, tyranny has no loyalty, that's what you're feeding right now. You, as a member of those organizations that are driving policy that you don't even understand, that I don't understand, that producers don't understand, but they're driving this policy that is coming from other NGOs and ENGOs. That, and in the end, you're going to want to partner up with them in the beginning. We see that all the time. We saw that with the Nature Conservancy on the Chico Basin Ranch in Colorado. Guy partnered up with the Nature Conservancy. 25 years later, they ate him. He's gone off
yeah,
the land.
his kids.
That's what's
Yeah,
happening here.
right. Um, but to go back, I don't know. I mean, we have so much ag media that we talk about, and I talk about, if you want to keep me doing this, I don't really know how to go about it because I am disorganized. I have people who've subscribed a year and a half ago, and I haven't. They did a 1 year subscription. I've never reminded them to subscribe again, just because when this kind of stuff comes down and people subscribe, and I should be out sending emails out to thank you and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not. I don't do it. I'm not good at keeping up with this kind of stuff because I need help and all that. But and when I sit down at my desk and I'm like, should I send thank you emails or should I and look at this mod case and see what I can do? I look at the mod case and see what I can do. I look into the Nature Conservancy and Farm Bureau and all this kind of stuff. And if you want me to keep doing this, or just help out and have ag media, even if it's me and Shad talking to each other, about these little things that nobody else is going to talk about, or very few other people are going to talk about. I'm going to encourage you to go to lonesomelands.com, click on subscribe. I've kind of want everything that I do to be for free, and part of that is giving me the ability to do it. And so if you want me to have that ability to do it, you have to go to lonesomelands.com, click subscribe, and subscribe and help us keep pushing this out there because you're not going to read about this in Farm Journal or Beef Magazine or any of that other crap that has full page ads from these organizations that we just talked about. And so, like I said, I've been in the planter all day. It's hard for me to tell my dad to, I gotta go record a podcast. I can't run the planter. Um, but it would make it easier if the more subscribers we get, the easier it gets. And I'm dedicated to continuing running a planter and working cattle and doing all that kind of stuff because I think that's important for people like you and me to still be connected
Well, that's who
and
we are, right?
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give that up, but if I can, if we can just keep growing this thing, we can get more and more of this information out there. And I think that's the key to fixing these problems is just getting people to know what's going on. Like what we just talked about, nobody knows about it. Nobody's talked about it. And if we don't, we'll bring it up again. I think we should say it every episode. We haven't said it. 140,000 small farms and ranches gone in the last 5 years. 107,000 small beef and small cattle and farm ranches gone in the last 5 years, disappeared, and they're not coming back because the
No.
Nature Conservancy and I mean, all of this things that we talk about are the reasons those things aren't coming back, and it's not going to change. The next 5 years, it'll be another 150,000, unless something changes. So that's where we're at. We don't have a ton of time. I'm sorry, I don't have any history ready, um, because I just haven't had time. That takes some time too to to sit down and research and look that kind of stuff up. But it's planting season, and
Well, I
and
think I think there is a little bit of history here, and our initial subject was the Maude case and um, the unjust activity that's happened there with those indictments, individual, separate indictments of Heather and Charles Maude. The history here is their legacy and their family and their great grandfather, Charles's great grandfather, settled that and has been there 114 years. This family is multi generational. They've been there 114 years. And somebody told me that Charles Maude has never done anything wrong in his life, never even got a speeding ticket. And after I met him this week, I can see that he is the most humble person I've probably ever met. Quiet, nice. His kids crawled all over him. They loved him. His wife was out there doing the chores and then she was cooking and she's right there. They're right beside each other all the time. And that's the history of the American West. That these people settled the West and they created a lasting legacy that should not be compounded by something so stupid and so minuscule that doesn't even really exist. I'm anxious to see if it ever comes out what the evidence is, you know? The evidence is under lock and key. Nobody knows what the evidence against the mods are. And I look out across that piece of land and I'm going, there's nothing here. There's no evidence. They've done nothing to modify this. I
hmm
mean, it's crazy. So the history is the mods legacy, and I hope we can help them at least, in one way or another. I don't know if we're helping them, but we're sure for them, and that's important
yeah,
because it's
and it's
important for them to be on the land.
yeah, and maybe the history will be the story that the
The
mod
story that set a precedent
yeah,
of
and
ending corruption.
right. I mean, it's as bad as the situation is. I feel like it's bringing to light a lot of stuff. And one thing is another member of that neighborhood that me and Shad both know. I was talking to them, and they said they were interested in part of that 777 ranch that the Nature Conservancy bought, and they're older. And she said we weren't interested in for it for ourselves. We were thinking about our grandkids, and that's what it's about. So,
That's what it's about. That's what I told him when I spoke. There's two issues here. It's the bloodshed in the name of freedom, which, by the way, four generations of the Mod men have fought in either World War One, World War Two, the Korean War. They're all veterans. And on the other side of that is these kids. The bloodshed is what we honor. These kids and the legacy we leave them is of the utmost importance right now. And so we have to work to protect and preserve the history and the future all at once.